Hey friends, today a quick and important piece of news from the Denmark investing space, and that is that finally, as of November 2021, you can open an Aktiesparekonto in Nordnet. In today's video, I'll tell you all about this and what it means to you specifically as an investor in Denmark. First, a refresher on Aktiesparekontos. For those of you who don't remember, Aktiesparekontos are a new setup you have in Denmark, or a relatively new setup you have in Denmark, where you have a special account, a special investment account, with three major differences comparing to the, let's say, normal or legacy setup. The first one, and the most important, is that in these accounts, you only pay 17% in capital gains tax. This is very low for Danish standards because in a normal investment account in Denmark, you pay between 27 and 45% in capital gains. How much you pay in capital gains will depend on how much you realize of your gains in a normal setup. But again, the fact that you can end up paying over 45% in capital gains, that's a lot. And 17%, I don't need to tell you, it's a big difference. Now, there are two catches on this setup. So it looks really good, right? But then there are two catches. The first one is that when you open one of these Aktiesparekontos, the only amount of capital you can put in as a maximum is around 100,000 Danish kroner. Everything on top of that, you basically can't put in. So that's the maximum you can put into this account. Of course, if the account goes up to 200,000 and so on, you can of course keep that in the account, but you can't add more capital itself, at least not at the moment. That's basically what the rules are. The second catch, and let's say it's the biggest catch, is that in the Aktiesparekontos, you'll pay capital gains on unrealized gains as well. What this means in practice is that if you buy, for example, a Tesla stock and it goes up in value a lot, even if you don't sell, you'll still have to pay the 70% at the end of the year. That's not nice. That's basically you're likely to sell a bit of the investment of the stocks to pay these gains, or you need to come out from your own pocket and pay these gains. But again, in the big scheme of things, because you have just 70% versus the other taxes of 27 to 45, this is a good deal. Fast forward till November this year. Finally then, Nordnet opens these Aktiesparekontos. Before, you could open an Aktiesparekonto in, for example, in a place like Saxo or in some of the other banks, but Nordnet was not offering this. For those of you who don't know as well, Nordnet is my favorite, or let's say preferred investment platform in Denmark. The reason I prefer Nordnet is threefold. The first one is Nordnet has this Nordnet Overview option where you can set up your investments to go automatically. So you basically send money from a bank, Nordnet invests for you without fees, and just once a month buys the assets that you want and does it all automatically. That's a big win for me, and I made a whole video explaining that setup over here, so you can check that out. So that's a quick win. Second one is that Nordnet and also Saxo and other Danish-based platforms, they just do all the taxes for you, so you don't need to worry about what you're reporting to Skat or not, or if you're missing something or you're going to get into trouble and so on. Basically, Nordnet takes care of everything, so that's very convenient for me as well. And the third one is that Nordnet has a generally pleasant user interface, which, for example, when you use Saxo, it's not the case. So from all the Danish options, it has like checks, puts these three options quite good for me. And there's one more thing about this, is that at least for me, it's important not to have my money all spread out. So I have already some money in Revolut, I have some money in Nordnet. I just didn't want to open an Aktiesparekonto, for example, in Saxo or in some of the other banks. It just didn't make sense. And I was waiting for this opportunity to just at least have all my Danish investments in just one place. It just makes it easier for me, and I prefer it like that. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to go to Nordnet itself, to the website, nordnet.dk, and link down in the video description for those of you who don't know it. And I'll show you how you can register one of these accounts and then the key information they need to know. So this is how the websites look like. And then you go to Lesmea here at the beginning, and you see the main key takeaways of their setup. A few things you should know about Aktiesparekontos when you are opening one is that you are only allowed to have one Aktiesparekonto. So if you already have one Aktiesparekonto, for example, in Saxo or in another bank, you need to close that account before you set this one up in Nordnet. For example, I had an account in Saxo. I had no money in there because I just opened it to see, but then I thought like, okay, I'll just wait for Nordnet. I had to message the Saxo team and make sure that my account was closed. And once that happened, I could actually go ahead and open mine. It's free to open an account in Nordnet. You don't need to pay. You, of course, pay fees when you buy and sell stocks, but then at the same time, you don't have any monthly fees or subscriptions to have the account. And let's say the key takeaways from their setup in Nordnet specifically is that you have a 10 krona fee to buy and sell funds and stocks and so on. That will be until mid next year. I expect that after then you will have to pay around 30 krona or so. Nordnet's fees are higher than in Saxo, for example. And you can't do the Månadsuppsparing in the Aktiesparekonto, at least not now. Which means that you don't have the opportunity to do these automatic investments within your Aktiesparekonto as you do in your normal accounts. Maybe that changes in the future, but that's the case now. Most critical point as well, the same thing we talked about taxes being managed by Nordnet and you don't need to worry about that and so on. This is the same for Aktiesparekontos. So you see here, like all the way, like Skat or the things are prepared for taxes authorities. So you basically don't need to worry about it at all. The same with as you do in other cases, Nordnet will take care of that for you, which is a great service. That's pretty much it. So if you want to go and open one of the accounts yourself, it's super straightforward. You sign up with your name ID, and then in my case, for example, I just had to confirm that I'm not a US citizen, that I don't have an Aktiesparekonto somewhere else, and basically it took less than an hour and I had my account open. That was pretty straightforward. And then once you have the account open, you get a bank ID number and you can send money in there in the same way that you can do to your normal Nordnet account now. So what's my recommendation? I'll tell you exactly what I have done myself and what I think is the best for most people. And that is that you should max out your Aktiesparekonto, meaning that you should deposit this 100,000 or so that you can deposit. If you, of course, don't have that money, then you deposit as much as you can. But if you do have the 100,000 and you're already investing in it somewhere else, or you have it in cash, you can already send it to your Aktiesparekonto. What I have done myself is that I have a normal investment account. I closed off some of those investments, transferred, got that cash, and then transfer the cash to my Aktiesparekonto, and then report the investments within the Aktiesparekonto. That cost in total, it was less than 100 krona. So it was not a big deal, at least not for me. And what you need to be aware of is that at least in Nordnet, I don't know how it works in other brokers, you can't transfer the investments themselves. So if you have an investment in your normal investment account and then you want to transfer to the Aktiesparekonto, you need to sell them in the investment account and then buy them again in the Aktiesparekonto. But again, with fees of around 10 krona, if you only have 2 or 3 investments, this is not a big deal. If you have a lot of investments or a lot of stocks and different instruments that you're wanting to buy, then of course it can be more of a problem. But if you just have a few as I do, that's no problem. And my plan now is that I have already maxed out my Aktiesparekonto and I'll just let it grow away. I can't put in more money, and I guess unless the stocks crash, I won't be able to do it in the future, but at least I'll just have it there and hopefully it keeps growing and paying this lower tax than my other investments have been doing. Just one more note as well is that I'll still be doing my monetary sparring to my normal account, because again, the setup I have now is that I have maxed out the Aktiesparekonto. I can't add more money anymore. So if I have any investment money coming in, and that's what I normally do each month, I'll keep doing that within my normal investment account. So I will not be sending any more money to this Aktiesparekonto. But at least I'll keep the allocation as I do between which assets I have and which things I should buy in the next month within as a overall holistic view of the 2 accounts together. And that's the primer on the Nordnet Aktiesparekontos. In case you want to know more about these accounts themselves, I made a whole video, as I said before, where I explain the concept in depth, and I can go a bit more into details on what it means to you as a person using these accounts and not, and more information about them as well. That's linked over here. With that, see you next week and thank you for watching.